greater than when my mother passed away. I thought I had lost everything. What I didn't know was that she had left behind a secret so powerful, so unimaginable, that it would not only change my life but alter the future of an entire continent. Hidden in dusty old files in a metal box in her bedroom, I uncovered the truth. My dead mother controlled a $100 billion fortune, a fortune tied to Africa's destiny. Chapter 1: The Mother's Hidden Life. Introduce the narrator's childhood. A simple African family, modest life. Mother never showed signs of wealth. She was quiet, educated, but lived humbly. Nobody knew her connections. After her death, while cleaning her room, the narrator discovers locked files, gold coins, and secret letters. Letters reveal she was connected to powerful African leaders, underground banks, and resistance groups fighting colonial exploitation. Chapter 2: The $100 billion Secret. Inside the documents, evidence of hidden bank accounts across Europe, Asia, and Africa. Ownership of shares in mining companies extracting African gold, diamonds, and rare minerals. Records of land titles and oil reserves bought decades ago in her name, now worth billions. Mother's motive: she never wanted the wealth for herself. She was waiting for the right momenta for the next generation to use it for Africa's freedom and progress. Chapter 3: The Shocking Realization. Narrator struggles to believe it. How could his mother, who cooked over firewood, hide such wealth? A note left by her explains. She had inherited part of it from ancestors who secretly resisted colonial powers. Another part came from partnerships with African revolutionaries. She deliberately stayed silent to avoid assassinations or foreign intelligence agencies. Emotional conflict. Narrator feels both betrayed, for living poor, and proud, for her sacrifice. Chapter 4: The Global Conspiracy. Reveal how Western banks and corporations tried to suppress Africa's rise. Mother's documents contain letters from French, British, and American officials who once tried to bribe or threaten her. She rejected all offers, protecting the money until Africa was ready. This explains why she lived in secrecy, because revealing the truth earlier could have led to her assassination. Chapter 5: Using the Fortune. Narrator decides not to keep the money privately. Instead, he follows her last wish: invest in African education, technology, renewable energy, and agriculture. Support young entrepreneurs. Fund African-owned media to fight propaganda. Soon, the $100 billion fund changes the continent. Roads, schools, hospitals built without foreign loans, farmers given technology to compete globally, universities producing innovators instead of brain drain. Africa begins to stand independently, free from IMF, World Bank, and foreign control. Chapter 6: The Resistance. But the world powers notice. Western corporations, intelligence agencies, and corrupt African politicians try to block the plan. Narrator faces threats, assassination attempts, and smear campaigns. Still, the people rally behind him when they learn the truth about his mother's sacrifice. Chapter 7: The Legacy. The story ends with Africa transformed. The narrator speaks to the audience. Greater than my mother's secret was not just about money. It was about vision, courage, and love for Africa. She chose silence so that one day, her children and her people could rise. Today, that dream is alive. Closing emotional note. Fade out with hope. Africa now leads in green energy, digital innovation, and cultural influence. The narrator visits his mother's grave, whispering, "Greater than Mama, your $100 billion secret did not just change me, it changed Africa forever." The woman who raised me, the same woman who cooked meals on a wood fire, who mended my school uniforms, and who often said we must make do with what little we have, was hiding something so enormous, so world-shattering, that it would shake the foundations of Africa's future. When my mother passed away, I thought I had lost everything, but what I didn't know was that she had left behind a secret so powerful, so unimaginable, that it would not only change my life, but alter the destiny of an entire continent. Hidden in dusty old files, tucked away in a rusted metal box beneath her bed, was the truth. My dead mother controlled a $100 billion fortune, a fortune she never used for herself, a fortune tied to Africa's survival. Chapter 1: A Mother's Quiet Life. Growing up, my mother seemed like any ordinary African woman. We lived in a modest house, sometimes without running water, sometimes skipping meals. She wore simple clothes, never jewelry, never makeup, never once gave the impression of wealth. She was soft-spoken, almost mysterious, and often disappeared from meetings that she never explained. I thought she was working for a charity or some local cooperative. She always said, "Son, the world is bigger than what you see. One day, you'll understand." But I never questioned her. She was my mother, my protector. When she died, grief consumed me. I thought her life had been hard, full of sacrifices, and that she left this world with nothing but memories. But when I began cleaning her room, I stumbled upon something that shattered everything I thought I knew. Chapter 2. At the metal box. It was hidden under a loose wooden panel in the floor, a box covered in dust, locked with 2 old latches. At first, I thought it was just sentimental belongings and maybe letters, maybe photographs. But when I broke it open, my hands began to shake. Inside were stacks of yellowed documents, sealed envelopes, strange passports in different names, and small velvet bags filled with gold coins. On top was a handwritten note in my mother's delicate script. "If you are reading this, it means my journey is over, and yours has begun. Guard what you find carefully. It does not belong to me, it belongs to Africa." My heart raced. I unfolded the first document. It was a bank statement. The numbers didn't make sense at first. Balances in the hundreds of millions. Accounts in Switzerland, Singapore, Nigeria, and South Africa. As I read more, I realized my mother had holdings across continents, mining shares, land titles, offshore accounts amounting to over $100 billion. Chapter 3. At the $100 billion secret. For hours, I sat in silence. Documents spread across the floor. Every page revealed a deeper secret. She owned shares in African mining companies that supplied gold, diamonds, and cobalt. She had oil reserves registered in her name from decades ago worth billions today. There were deeds to vast tracts of fertile farmland, but it wasn't greed. My mother hadn't touched a single cent for herself. We lived poor, even as she sat on unimaginable wealth. Why? Then I found another letter. "Son, this money was never meant for me. It is not stolen. It is not dirty. It is Africa's inheritance. For years, I have guarded it from foreign powers who wanted to drain it. I could not use it yet, because the time was not right. If it were revealed too soon, I would be killed, and the money stolen. But one day, Africa will need it, and that day has come. You must carry the torch." Tears blurred my vision. My mother, the quiet woman I thought had lived a small, ordinary life, had been a guardian of a fortune greater than most governments ever see. Chapter 4. At a hidden history. As I dug deeper, I realized this was more than money. It was history itself. There were letters from African leaders and men whose names filled history books, revolutionaries who fought colonial powers, presidents who were assassinated, ministers who vanished mysteriously. They all wrote to my mother. In one letter, a well-known West African leader thanked her for secretly financing schools during the independence struggle. In another, a South African activist described how she smuggled funds for anti-apartheid campaigns. I was stunned. My mother had been a silent architect behind the scenes, a woman whose name was never mentioned in public, yet whose influence quietly changed the course of nations. And then came the most shocking discovery: correspondence with Western banks and corporations. Some begged her to sell her shares, others threatened her. A few even warned her that accidents happen to people who stand in the way of global interests. Suddenly, it all made sense. Her secrecy, her quiet life, the way she never spoke openly. She had been walking on the edge of death for decades, protecting a treasure meant for Africa's liberation. Chapter 5. My mother's vision. I felt both betrayed and proud. Betrayed, because she let us live poor, sometimes hungry, while sitting on a mountain of wealth. Proud, because she was selfless, refusing to use it for herself, waiting for the right time. Her vision was clear: to build schools and universities where African children would not just learn, but innovate. To invest in technology so Africa would not always be a consumer, but a creator. To develop agriculture so farmers could feed the world instead of begging for aid. To create African-owned banks and media, free from foreign propaganda. This was not just about money. It was about dignity, independence, and freedom from centuries of exploitation. And now, That responsibility was mine.